So for this week's video, we're going to talk about how we use georeferenced TIFF files to correct individual feature classes. We have two feature classes that we need to adjust as most of these databases, they're usually state run and they're pulled from large inventories, and they a lot of times have problems. What I mean by problems is alignment issues. So we're going to find that our streams don't align with, the real world of where they're actually at. And so we're going to need to correct that or edit it. And same thing with our roads layer. So what I have here is you're going to have two feature classes that you're going to start with. Actually, three. You have forest roads, this Washington streams layer, and then the unit boundary. And then you also have in the folder this georeferenced TIFF file. And if you want to see how I did this, the text covers georeferencing. Basically, you're taking an image file that it doesn't know where it belongs in the world, and you're giving it a location. So in this situation, you can see the georeferenced points identified here as this was my first point here. So I referenced this corner point down here in the corner. There's always going to be some stretch and alignment issues. And that's what we have in this situation, is that it's close. It's probably, a few meters. Looks like it's maybe just 1 or 2 meters away from its actual location. Really, we want this corner to align here. It's never going to be perfect, even with 7 reference points, but it's pretty darn close. And if you want to use the georeferencing tool, you can just go grab that off of Customize toolbars, and it's over here under georeferencing. It's a really great feature for using, in this situation, a unit map that was a harvest unit. And we're going to see that we have some problems here. So here's the stream within the unit, and we can just verify that because I downloaded the NAIP imagery, and we can look at that NAIP imagery and see that the NAIP imagery is really close to what our harvest unit actually looks like. And if we want to see both of those simultaneously, we can get into the properties of this TIFF file. And we should be able to change the display here, transparency level to 50. And then what's kind of nice about that, let me zoom back out here. Should load, but looks like it's not going to load. Yeah, for some reason it's not loading here. Let me try one more thing here. We'll just turn that off and turn that back on. It should load for you, so you might have to give it a shot. Oh, there's why drawing order is incorrect. So let's get that corrected. There we go. That's better. So there we have it, where you can actually kind of see through it, see the aerial image. And we see that the unit boundary within the riparian buffer is actually pretty darn good, and that we do have some errors here with our roads layer and definitely with our streams layer. So our Washington streams layer is off by a few hundred meters maybe, and this needs to be corrected and edited and brought back up into here. I really want you to only focus on the streams that are within the unit boundary. And so you can just edit those existing streams. So we're going to go up here to editor, start editing. We have some issues going on just because of different spatial references and so forth. I'm just going to go with those and say, okay, we're going to run with these Washington streams. And mainly it's because of this NAIP imagery is a different projection than these other feature classes. So we're just going to go with that. I don't want to reproject into the NAIP imagery. But anyway, we'll grab our Washington streams layer here, and what we're going to do is just start adjusting this streams layer back up to this this creek one upper. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to zoom in just a tad here and start off of this level. and grab my edit tool, and I'm going to double left click on my stream layer to get the vertices to show up. And then I'm just going to grab this vertex and I'm going to move it up to the blue line here and just fit that into position to correct it. And I try to be fairly diligent to put it at the center of the line and also note where there's individual vertices. So I might need to add a couple of vertices in here, and you can do that using this edit vertex or edit vertices and just click and add a few of those. Sometimes two of these might get selected simultaneously, and that will create a little bit of an issue for you. So just make sure when it has this white center, that means the vertex is selected, or the last one that you had selected. And then I can, as I want to move off the map, I'm just going to go grab my pan tool, move that over. I need to have my create features enabled here. I'm going to turn this aerial image off because that's fairly large and a little clunky. Go back, grab my create features, pick back on my line. If I wanted to draw it here, I'm okay. I can just use my edit tool. Okay, grab my vertex and then just continue dragging these up into their appropriate location. Again, if I want to add more vertices or subtract vertices, I'm going to do that. So you get kind of the gist here in terms of editing the stream. While you're doing this, make sure you see where the stream used to be. So make sure you save your edits, and that'll adjust the stream. So when I zoom back out here, you'll see that the stream is starting to show up in its appropriate location. And we just have this last little bit here to clean up and bring around the corner. Now you'll notice it's off the map here, going in the wrong direction. So I would probably take this last vertex and bring it down into here where it actually ends. So the stream, cruises up through here, goes around through the, it's somewhat of a bummer that this is on here, but we'll just work through that and bring the stream down into its appropriate location. We'll do that with the road as well. So if we turn the NAIP imagery back on, you'll see that road is a little inaccurate in terms of its location. It could be adjusted and moved over here to make it a little bit better. Maybe add a couple more vertices in here to make it more of a curve on the corner, and then we'll be in a little bit better shape. So that needs to be corrected as well. And then the last thing you'll need to do is we need to digitize the unit boundaries. So we have 3 units in here. They break them into unit 1 down here south of the road, unit 2 kind of in between the road and the riparian buffer, and then unit 3 up here on the upper part. So you'll need to make a new feature class. So I have that here in my desktop folder. And how I did that is working in here in unit 8. Somehow missing it, where that actually is. Here we go. Yeah, it's the enabled geodatabase. So you're going to need to create 2 feature classes. I created this feature class here called units. So that'll be units 1, 2, and 3, and then riparian buffer. So to do that, right click again, new feature class, and then go ahead and walk through the wizard, make sure that they're polygons, grab the units or import the units from these other feature classes like the forest roads or riparian or a unit boundary. Either of those will be fine. And then you're going to be set to go through and start editing. Now what we'll do here, I've already created these 2. And we can kind of show what this would actually look like. Let's just make the color the line a little bit heavier so that you can see that unit boundary. So I'm going to digitize that. I would start with the unit boundaries. So I started with unit 3 here and used my snapping tool. So make sure your snapping is enabled. And how I drew that was just by selecting the individual vertices along my unit boundary, and then just digitizing or drawing along the line here. So I can give you kind of an example of what I would do. We'll stop editing here, and then we'll start editing. So we'll walk through that process. We're gonna edit units, continue, create features. We're gonna edit units here. We're gonna make a polygon feature. And what I'll do beforehand is I'm just gonna select this one and delete that, just so I can make it over again here. So, and at this point, I'm going to start with my Riparian buffer turned on. That way I can snap to these individual vertices. So I'm going to make sure that my vertex snapping is on, go back to create features, select units. And then as I hover over here in digitize, you're going to see that it's going to pop to each of those vertices, which is pretty nice. And I can just use my pan tool, pan on the map, back over here to polygon, picks my tool back up. I'm just going to drag it along and grab these vertices as I go around. Now, there is another really cool tool that if this doesn't work for you, so I'm just going to end that and delete it. So I'm going to zoom back out, back to this layer. Now, you're not going to have this Riparian buffer, but I would recommend that you digitize along the line and then digitize the second unit down here in the bottom. And then you can create this Riparian buffer by using this next tool here, which is what we call trace. So I'm going to select trace. We're going to be making a polygon. And now what I do is I can zoom in. I really, when I use my trace tool, I want to actually see the whole unit. So there's no other, I guess there is a vertex here on the edge, so that'll work. So I'll zoom out here to where I can see the whole unit that I want to trace. And what I'll do is I'll start up here in this upper corner. So I have my vertex snapping on. So there's a vertex on this corner. I'm going to left click, and then I'm just going to pull down and then drag this around that Riparian buffer. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of problems as it'll get hung up, particularly in these pointed areas where there's maybe another feature class. So I'm going to go all the way up here to the corner and then double left click at this point. And rather than digitizing all those vertices, I've actually just traced all of them. And you'll see that wherever there was a vertex in this boundary, like along this side where there's quite a few more, you wouldn't want to snap to every one of those vertices. You're gonna miss one, which would be problematic. So up here, you'll see those vertices they're sharing the same location, which is really cool. And we can go back and actually add map topology to this so that we know that, well, the GIS knows that this vertex and the vertex of the Riparian buffer are sitting on the same location. And that's super cool, because if you go in and edit in the future, it would move both vertices simultaneously. So a few things left for me to clean up here. I definitely would need to add my Riparian buffers down here in the bottom. I need to add my streams in the unit down here in the bottom. There's a couple other streams in here as well. And then from that, I would go ahead and make your map. Now you can make your map with the transparency. Sometimes this is helpful. Sometimes it's better just to turn that off. And let me save my edits real quick. So you can turn that off, and then you have your unit map with the Riparian buffers in place. You can symbolize those with something slightly different. It's kind of nice to maybe add a little bit of just a simple crosshatch here. You can put that into a blue color. So you see your riparian buffer, something like that. Very, very easy to do. Showcase some of your work that you've done in terms of editing, and then also digitizing. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. And digitizing is extremely tedious, takes quite a bit of time. You want to have a good mouse, but it's pretty critical for most of the resource work that we do. So if you have any other questions, make sure you stop in. And I have office hours for finals week, and would be happy to help you.